You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're talking about Pennsylvania. So, Lauren?
Yes, Kenzie?
Let's get scary.
Congratulations!
Woohoo!
You did it! First try! No mistakes.
Heck yeah!
Incredible.
Ugh, I'm officially,
We got it.
I'm
Super
officially, I'm a host now.
So, we were on an episode with Private Dicks. I'm not sure when the episode will come out, but we'll let everyone know. It was really fun. We talked about, can I say what we talked about? We talked about something spooky, which is right up our alley. So whenever that gets released, we'll point you guys over in that direction. But yeah, it was really fun.
It was interesting. I don't understand how their cameras looked so pristine.
Right.
They've got to have an attachment.
Ours was so grainy.
I'm glad to know it's not just my Mac computer that's like that.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're so grainy.
Maybe our lighting was really bad.
No, because my computer is grainy like that no matter what the behind me looks like. Even when I'm not using like photo booth or FaceTime.
Yeah.
Like I have to sometimes record responses to for some of my classes, and even that one is grainy.
Huh.
So.
Yeah, they must have something fancy.
Which I'm like, it's a freaking Mac computer. How do you not have a nice camera?
Especially with all the different
You got 85
versions
different
of the
cameras
phone.
on the phone.
Right? Yeah.
And yet you can't have a clear picture on your damn computers?
Our computers are kind of old, though.
No,
Mine's
they're
at
not.
least 2 years old.
That's not old.
In Dell and PC life, it is.
Well, these are Macs.
I know. It's still taking me a little bit to realize that. Which is why I bought a Mac. Because my old one, it would take like 15 minutes to just turn on. And I was like, this is annoying.
Well, my work computer is a Dell, and when I use that, is a Dell. That camera is clear.
Yeah. Huh. Maybe they just didn't care much about their cameras.
I guess not.
You just got all the other connectivity things.
Mm.
So, I don't think we have much to talk about.
I just saw you on Monday.
Yeah, I just saw you on Monday. Your birthday's tomorrow.
Whoop whoop.
Thanksgiving is tomorrow.
No, it's not.
It's not tomorrow.
Mm-mm.
Okay, just Mackenzie.
It's canceled.
Okay.
We are just celebrating my birthday.
So everyone is just gathering, eating turkey and gravy and stuffing just to
In
celebrate
celebration
Mackenzie's
of
birthday.
me, because
Yeah.
I love Thanksgiving food, so it's the perfect birthday meal
It really is.
in the entire United States. I was going to say world, and then I realized this is
Yeah,
not.
nope.
Is celebrating me by having this collective meal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, happy Mackenzie's birthday, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess I'll jump into Pennsylvania.
Yes, please.
So Pennsylvania is the chocolate capital of the world. Nope,
Ooh.
just kidding.
Oh.
The chocolate capital of the world is located in Hershey.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
So you saying it's the capital, that
Well, yeah, I
still
guess.
made sense.
It did. The first zoo in the U.S. was the Philadelphia Zoo.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The Christmas tree capital of the world is Indiana County,
Mm.
which is coming up here. Scranton is located here. Scranton is the electric city. They call it that because of the electricity.
What?
It's from The Office. Anyone who watches The Office will understand.
Okay.
Scranton, what? The electric city. They call it that because of the electricity.
Oh.
It's
Now that you
funny.
sang it all together, it makes sense.
I wrote in here because like I said, I do these way ahead of time and I never know who reads it, so I wrote office joke in case you needed to know. The famous painting horse, Metro Meteor, lives here.
Huh?
He's a painting horse.
Oh, a painting? Okay. I thought it was a painting of a horse.
Yep, nope, a painting horse.
Got it.
Named Metro Meteor.
Hmm.
The largest pothole is located at Archbald Pothole State Park.
They made a park for a pothole?
Well, it's 38 feet deep and 15,000 years old.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he gets his own park.
Yeah, he gets his own park.
The first human brain cell transplant took place here, as well as the first kidney transfer.
Oh, that's cool. Wow,
Ah.
Pennsylvania's got a lot of shit.
They have a lot of history and stuff.
Well,
Obviously.
they were the
Yeah.
OG capital.
Yeah. That's why I said this state obviously houses the Liberty Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually spells Pennsylvania with one less N. So it's Pensyl, Vania.
Did you know that Pennsylvania was named after William Penn?
Oh, very cool.
I think.
I think you're right. But yeah, that spelling with the one less N was made before the official spelling of the state was made.
Mm.
So it's spelled wrong on the Liberty Bell.
Or the state is spelled wrong.
One or the other.
Mm-hmm.
The first baseball stadium was built in Pittsburgh. The world's oldest golf course is also located in Clarion.
The world's oldest?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
I included that for Joseph.
Ah.
You will not.
Oh, wait. We have to give our shout out.
Yes.
So we want to give a shout out and say hello to our best friend's husband, Spencer.
And our very good friend, Spencer.
And our very good friend, Spencer.
Okay, he got mad because we didn't shout him out once.
And God forbid we shout out his wife.
Right. Well,
our friend.
You will not believe your eyes, but the state insect is the firefly.
Oh, that was good.
Thank you. The Conjolier House on Ridge Street is located in Pittsburgh and was once considered to be the most haunted house in the country.
As they all are.
The house is more often known as the house the devil built. In the 1800s, a woman found out that her husband was having an affair, so she brutally murdered him and his mistress. Then,
I get it.
Many years later...
Sorry.
Many years later, a doctor moved in. Later, it was discovered that he had been performing experiments on dead bodies.
Well, at least they were already dead.
Well, but gross.
Okay, but...
That's, like, illegal.
Well, yeah, but it's not like he killed them.
But we don't know. We just know he was experimenting on dead bodies.
I feel like out of all of the options of how that could go, if they were already dead and he just took them, yes, it is creepy, don't get me wrong, but,
And
like,
illegal.
It could be a lot worse. He could be killing people to perform experiments on them.
Tis true.
Just saying.
True. Then years later, there was an explosion that completely demolished the house. It was, quote, as if it was swallowed by hell itself.
Sounds like it needed to be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Gettysburg has a very haunting history that has made way for an insane amount of ghost stories. It is said that Gettysburg has more ghosts per capita than almost anywhere else.
Well, there was the battle that was
Well,
there.
yeah, Gettysburg is, like, super haunted.
Mm-hmm.
The Haunting of Hill House was a novel written by Shirley Jackson, and it is set in the fictional town of Hillsborough, Pennsylvania. I think that might be the inspiration for The Haunting of Hill House, the show on Netflix. I tried to find if there was a connection, and I could not.
Them having the same exact fucking title has nothing to do with it.
We don't know for sure.
Oh my god.
So, Hellam Township, located in York, is said to be the home of the 7 gates of hell. Legend goes that when these gates are crossed in the right order, a doorway to hell will open. The first gate is always visible, but the other 6 are only visible at night. It is said that no one has passed through more than 5 and returned to tell the tale.
Interessante.
The wandering bus is also seen. So this legend says that there is a bus which only appears to those who are truly desperate to leave their current circumstances, but don't have any, exact destinations in mind of where they want to go. Eventually, when the rider disembarks, they are exactly where they need to be. It is even said that some people ride it for years before they get off.
What?
It just, takes you, and just one day you hop off and you're exactly where you need to be. Years could have passed, days could have passed, hours could have passed. Kobe Bryant, Kevin Hart, Joan Jett, and Will Smith were all born in Philadelphia.
West Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
Not in. I said on.
Oh. Taylor Swift was born in West Reading, and Tina Fey was born in Upper Darby. And that is Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
So, Mackenzie, what are you telling us today about Pennsylvania?
I'm telling you guys about the... Okay, so I want to say... Candace.
Okay.
But I don't think that that's how you say their last name.
Okay.
So then I was like, Kadunce. And I was like, that sounds weird.
Yeah. I think Cadence is good.
Cadence?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about the murder of Kathy and Dawn Cadence in 1978. So, this is going to be a very interesting story.
Okay.
Because as I was doing my research, and I was, reading through, seeing what happened, I continued scrolling on some of these pages to look at the comments that people had left.
Ooh, yes, I love the comments.
Oh my god. Did shit pop off on this one site?
Ooh.
I do not know.
So we get the tea.
Well, I hope so. These could be completely fake people.
Okay.
But if they're real, oh my god.
Okay.
So those will be shared at the end of this tale.
Sounds good.
So, Rose Butera and her daughter Lori and Lori's friend were going to visit Rose's friend Kathy Kadunce. Kathy lived on Wilmington Avenue in Newcastle, Pennsylvania with her husband Lawrence, or Lou or Louie by friends and family. I will be calling him Lawrence.
Okay.
And their 2 small children, Dawn, who was 4, and Robert Dean, who was 3 months old. Baby.
Yeah.
When Rose arrived at Kathy's house around 10 in the morning on July 11th, 1978, they noticed that the front door was slightly open. They knocked on the door and could hear Robert crying in the home. When no one answered, they decided to go in and found Robert in a portable crib on the first floor.
And wait, who are the people who came in? Their neighbors?
A friend.
Oh, okay.
A friend of the wife.
Okay.
Rose's daughter, Lori, went upstairs to look for Kathy when she came across the body of 4-year-old Dawn.
Oh.
The county coroner would later report that she had been stabbed 17 times. Oh, yeah. They found Kathy shot in the back of the head and also repeatedly stabbed, naked and in her bathroom. The county coroner would report that Kathy had been shot in the back of the head and, like her daughter, had then been stabbed 17 times. The county coroner would describe the killing as, quote, excessive and overkill.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. When police began their investigation, they discovered that 2 rings that Kathy always wore were missing, her wedding ring and a sapphire ring that had been taken by killer or killers, and no murder weapons had been left at the scene. Investigators immediately turned their sights on Kathy's husband, Lawrence. Mr. Kadunce claimed to be at work that morning of the murder, and police moved on from him as a suspect. Police had little to go on until January of 1979, when they received an anonymous tip that Michael Atkinson was responsible for the murders. So Atkinson was a drifter who would typically find his way back to his hometown of Elwood City, which is a little bit south of Newcastle. And Atkinson had previously been convicted in 1972 of arson and in 1978 for rape.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good guy.
Mm-hmm. And people who interacted with him would describe him as, quote, a psychopath.
Good.
Yeah. So on February 11th, 1980, police arrested Atkinson as a suspect in the murders. Atkinson was being held at Butler County Prison on charges for murdering his landlady, Rose Puz, who was 84.
Rose Puz.
Rose Puz.
Oh, that's such a sweet name.
Right? So Atkinson did confess to detectives that he was at the Kadunce house that morning of the murders, and he said that himself, Frank Costal, Lawrence Kadunce, and John Dowick had gone to the Kadunce house early that morning because of an issue involving drugs. Atkinson claimed that Kathy had found the drugs her husband was given by Costal, and she flushed them down the toilet. Atkinson said that he had stayed in the car while the others went inside. He heard a gunshot and then saw Mr. Kadunce run out of the house with a shotgun, and Costal and the other guy following behind, covered in blood. So, in February of 1980, police arrested Frank Costal at his apartment on suspicion of murder. When they began searching his apartment, police found that Costal's apartment was covered with skulls, inverted crucifix, books on black magic, witchcraft, and devil worship.
Oh.
All of the walls were covered top to bottom with black curtains. Costal confessed to police that he and the others already named were indeed at the crime scene that morning. He also confirmed that they were there because of the interference from Kathy with the drugs. However, Costal claimed that it was his associates that were the one who killed Kathy and her daughter, killing the daughter to prevent her from identifying her mother's killers, even though she's fucking 4. Yeah. So police couldn't question or arrest John Dudo. Okay, crap, I spelled it differently there. Anyway, they couldn't question him or arrest him because he had been shot to death in November of 1979.
Oh.
They claim it was suicide, but there's a lot of speculation that Costal killed him to keep him from talking. Let's go to the trial, because this is where shit gets interesting.
Of course.
So, Michael Atkinson. He went on trial March 4th, 1980, for the rape of a 17-year-old and was found guilty. On September 15th, 1980, his trial started for the murder of Kathy and Dawn Kadunce. He was being charged with first-degree murder for the murder of Kathy. Her full name is Kathleen, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. And third-degree murder for killing her daughter, because it was considered not premeditated, since it was spur of the moment, so to speak. Prosecutors showed the jury the gruesome images from the horrific crimes committed, and they used Frank Costal as their star witness for placing Atkinson at the Kadunce home the morning of the murders. Atkinson went on the stand in his own defense, continuing to claim he was in the car when the killing took place. When the prosecution cross-examined him, they were able to poke holes in the inconsistencies of his story. Atkinson said that all of them were there and returned to the house later to clean up the evidence. On October 6th, please don't tell me you keep these noises in.
No.
Okay, thank God.
No.
Okay.
I do take these out.
Okay, cool.
I also take out some of our laughs where it's like, I take those out too.
My snorts.
Like that, yeah, like the weird snorts, because sometimes you're listening and I'm like, no,
That doesn't
they're
sound
gonna
too
take
great.
that out.
So on October 16th, 1980, Michael Atkinson was found guilty on all charges and was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Kathy Kadunce. And Kadunce. Well, it's K-U.
Well, then you spelled it wrong on your other thing. On the Excel spreadsheet, it was K-A Dunce.
K-A Dunce. Yeah.
Cadence. You said Kadunce.
Oh, my bad. Okay, sorry. Oh, because, okay, so.
Did you spell it wrong?
Yeah, I flipped the A. Anyway. And he got 10 to 20 years for the murder of her daughter, Dawn. In 1982, Atkinson was found guilty for the murder of his landlady, Rose Puz, and then, but he did die in prison in 2013. So, that was a trial of Mr. Atkinson.
Okay.
He doesn't go away, though. Comes back. Then we get to Frank.
Because I was about to say, that was a short case.
Right. And we're done. And see. No. We haven't even touched Frank yet.
Oh.
Frank is weird. So, the trial for Frank Costal began on January 5th, 1981. And because publicity of the case, the jury had to be selected from Crawford County. Don't know where that is in relation. I'm assuming it's somewhere else.
An outside county, yeah.
Yeah. Because prosecutors had little evidence to go on, they used witness testimony as the basis for their case against Costal. Most, if not all of their witnesses had some questionable backgrounds, but some context might be needed on the type of person that Costal was before we get into his trial. So, Frank's life was anything but ordinary. His grandmother, Beatrice Costal, was a familiar name in the Newcastle area. She had lost her leg after she had stepped out in front of a car. She had numerous unexplained fires that occurred regularly at her house. In 1931, she brought apparently a very strange-looking lizard to the Newcastle news office.
Okay.
To see if anyone had seen this type of lizard before. Nobody had.
Okay.
And then the following year, Beatrice shot her husband in the back of the head before turning the gun on herself and taking her own life.
Oh.
Frank was only 4.
Oh.
So Frank claims, or at least the sources claim that he claims, that growing up with his father, some reports said his father was abusive, and then some say that they fought a lot. Either way, not a good relationship. And they also said that Frank would say that he had been sexually abused when he was younger. Although never named an abuser, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's not true.
Yeah.
So, during his teenage years was when Frank started to question his sexuality. He had dropped out of high school at the age of 17 and was arrested shortly after on suspicion of stealing a bike.
Okay.
But the case never went to court. Which, when I read that, I was like, I would fucking hope not.
Right.
It's a bike.
Mm-hmm.
But, this was like the 50s.
Your main form of transportation.
So, I get it. I'd be mad if my bike got stolen.
I would be too.
So, Frank decided to enlist in the army and became a military policeman, but then eventually he went AWOL and joined a traveling carnival.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How very drastically different.
Oh, it keeps going. Frank would dress up as a, quote, half man, half woman named Frankie Francine. When Frank left the carnival, he started working in construction in the Pittsburgh area, and then in 1970, he was injured on the job and retired on disability at the age of 42.
Wow.
Yep. Which led Frank to return to his hometown of Newcastle. Frank was known for loitering around newly built malls with his strange friends. One of the people who commented on another of the things I was reading said that there was one time her sister was working at the mall and had called her, and her dad had gone to go pick her up, and she called her dad saying, okay, you need to come in and walk out with me, because he was like standing around her store.
Ew.
And then there was another lady who commented saying that her mom, I think, I forget what kind of store she had, but she had some sort of store, and like he would come in asking for like skull molds and like skull type things. Okay, she asked him what the skull models were for, and when he told her they were for his altar, my mom bursted out laughing. I remember the murders and trial and all that went with it. It's still creepy.
Ew.
So,
and who said that? Just some...
Yeah, it was some person who commented on this guy's like posts or whatever.
Yeah.
Strange dude. The locals referred to him as the, quote, high priestess of Satan, or the witch of Highland Avenue. He lived in an apartment off of Highland Avenue.
So they called him priestess?
Sorry, not priestess. High priest of Satan. My bad.
Because I was going to say, did we come out? No, Is there something good going on there?
No.
Oh, okay.
Never officially comes out.
Okay.
So now that you know a little bit about Frank, the witness accounts of him will make a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Prosecutors said that Kostal performed the ritualistic killings because of his affair with the victim's husband. I know.
That takes you a little bit to be like, oh, yeah, okay, then wait, okay.
I know.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Totally pulled that one on you, didn't I?
Yeah. And where was the husband at this time working?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So, one report I read said that 52 people testified against Kostal.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot of people to even just know.
Right? Well, and like it was interesting because when the report was like, yeah, most of the witnesses had pretty sketchy backgrounds, and you read that there's 52 of them.
Right.
But when you're reading about like who are the people that are testifying, it is mostly his quote followers.
Okay.
Followers is a strong word because he wasn't trying to start any sort of cult by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but he definitely was like, I'll get into it. They claimed that Kostal would hold satanic rituals in his apartment and would lure young followers with free alcohol and pot.
Yes, as you do.
Mm-hmm. Kostal would tell his followers that he had the ability to control people's bodies and can teleport to other places. Marshall Dillon testified that he married Kostal in a satanic wedding ceremony conducted in Kostal's kitchen. He had lived with Kostal for 2 months before he left after Kostal had threatened to stab him for talking to girls. George Kuziel testified that Kostal had a voodoo doll that he would stick pins into to control people. Jane Garcia said that she was at Kostal's apartment one time and he told her that he could astral project into her husband to remove him from her life for the low price of $25.
What a deal.
What a deal. Ben Glingensmith, that at Kostal's he would constantly preach about how real churches were fake, the Virgin Mary being a lesbian, and Jesus was queer.
Okay.
So,
some really interesting insight.
Right. A fellow inmate had testified that Kostal had bragged about, quote, carving up the cadences. Many witnesses also claimed that Lawrence was a member of the satanic group and was frequently seen at Kostal's apartment. They also said that Kadunce and Kostal were having an affair, and Kostal wanted Kadunce to leave his wife and children. A satanic expert from Slippery Rock State College testified to all the occult decor found in Kostal's house or apartment was consistent with satanic rituals. He also said that the Kadunce murder appeared ritualistic. Anything with R's are difficult. He said that the number 17 is a significant number in satanic rituals, which would match the number of stab wounds found in both Kathy and her daughter.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, Michael Atkinson also testified against Kostal. And he told the jury that Kostal told him he wanted to kill Kathy so he could have Lawrence all to himself. Kostal also took the stand, and he denied everything. The affair, even knowing Mr. Kadunce, claimed to be, quote, more of a bisexual than a homo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Although there was one... Like, a couple of the articles said that he also admitted to never having a relationship with a woman.
Okay.
But I'm like, okay, that doesn't, anyway.
Something's not adding up here.
Right. So he did admit to knowing Atkinson for about 5 to 6 years and claimed that they slept together one time, saying, quote, it was one cold night and I let him in. I had the constant fear he'd make good on the threat. I guess he threatened him.
Okay.
He was weird. So are you. He also denied being involved with any satanic rituals or being a Satanist. He said to have decorated his apartment the way that he did because, quote, a lot of people like to peek at it, so I decorated it as weird as I could. I never had what you call a cult. Some people would come to my house to discuss different religious groups. Sometimes they'd ask, and I'd put on a really good show. It was a lot of fun, and I usually ended up with a couple of six-packs. On January 25th, 1981, the jury found Frank Kostal guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder.
Mm-hmm.
The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and he died in jail in 2001.
Are we going to find out where Lawrence is?
He's next.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm, thinking of him and the little baby.
Uh-huh. That's what pops off in the freaking comments.
Oh, okay.
So, at first, when I was reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, he didn't do it. Like, that makes sense. But I hadn't read any of the other things, of the other testimonies and things like that. Like, I didn't realize how involved he was. I also didn't realize when it said affair that it meant affair with the husband.
Yeah.
So, now that I read it all, I'm like, oh yeah, he definitely did it.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least partook in it. But anyway, Mr. Kadunce was arrested after Costel's conviction and tried for the murder of his wife and child in January of 1982. He continued to claim that he was at work when the murder occurred and denied knowing any of the men involved. Sandra Lee Corson testified that she knew Costel. Apparently, when I read this, I was like so concerned because apparently she knew him because he would babysit for one of her friends.
Oh.
And I'm like, who in their right mind would let this man around their children?
Wow. Okay.
That's not the part we're supposed to focus on. We're supposed to focus on the fact that she claimed that Costel had introduced her to Kadunce and his wife in 1977.
Okay.
Local police and the family of Kathy Kadunce testified about the inconsistencies in Lawrence's story. The family also testified to the fact that Lawrence spent the majority of his wife and child's funeral laughing and joking with his buddies.
Not a good look there.
Our good buddy Atkinson.
Yes.
He also testified at this trial. Which as I was reading it, I was thoroughly confused because, I mean, I guess they're all being charged in her murder.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'll finish that thought when I get to the end of this.
Okay.
Because I don't want to give anything away before I read it.
Okay.
He said that the defendant argued with his wife in the bathroom about the drugs and shot her in the head. He said that Lawrence told Costel to kill his daughter so that she couldn't identify the killers.
Mm-hmm.
He also said that Kadunce had burned evidence behind his house, meaning Atkinson's house, and threw the knife and gun into a pond owned by the Medusa cement plant. Atkinson also said that he was introduced to Lawrence and his wife in 1977 by Frank Costel. And he said that Kadunce was a very jealous husband and at one point even accused Atkinson of having an affair with his wife. He also testified to the affair that Costel and Kadunce were having because he said that one time he had walked in on them having sex in Costel's apartment.
Okay.
Kadunce's defense lawyers were trying to discredit Atkinson's testimony by addressing the fact that he had gotten a deal from the district attorney for his testimony, confession, whatever, to not get the death penalty because he was, on trial for fucking everything else, which was true. And then Kadunce also took the stand into defense and, of course, denied everything. And on February 10th, 1982, the jury found him not guilty.
Oh. Okay.
And I'm like, with all the witnesses in Frank's trial who had said to see him there, both Frank and Atkinson, because remember, when Frank testified at Atkinson's trial, he said that he was there, but that they were the ones that did it. He didn't partake in it. He was just there.
Yeah.
But then, of course, at his trial, he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who these people are.
Right.
And I was like, okay, regardless, whatever you look at here, the consistencies that are here are that they went over there to deal with the drug situation. She was shot by her husband. And then who did the stabbing part? That one obviously is murky.
Yeah. And was the daughter shot or just stabbed?
Just stabbed.
Okay.
But the wife was shot and then stabbed.
Yeah.
And that's consistent. But yet...
yeah, you're not taking any of the other things.
Right. And I'm like, you now have two people in this one trial saying that this Costel guy had introduced these two separate people to the wife and the husband. So, what the fuck?
Right.
Obviously, members of her family do not believe that he is innocent.
Yeah.
Apparently, he left Newcastle and remarried and had a second son. And then the house was eventually knocked down in 2004 for a video rental. Now, these comments. So, my good buddy Jim Fisher. True Crime Blogspot.
We've used him before. Yeah.
Just does a lovely job of creating this beautiful timeline.
Yes, he does.
It makes it so easy.
I have used him quite a bit before in other timeline cases.
Absolutely. So these comments. Okay, so there's only one person who had, okay, I take that back. There's two people who have a name, and everyone else is anonymous and unknown. Okay. So this person, anonymous, commented December 29th, 2015 at 4:16 p.m. I knew Lou Cadence when he worked with a few friends of mine at Working Man's Friend gas station on Wilmington Road in 1973 or 4. He wanted a bunch of us to go to the caves along Neshnock Creek in the middle of the night. He also brought a satanic book for us to read. None of us did. I've always believed that he was involved in the murders.
Interesting.
And another person commented, bizarre.
Thank you.
So this person, Wolfine, commented on August 31st, 2018 at 6:04 p.m. I knew Louis Cadence. He was my uncle. 2 weeks before it happened, my dad took me and my brother back to Newcastle to visit my grandmother, and I slept over one night at Uncle Louis's house. No sooner had I fallen asleep when I had a fucked up waking dream that the baby started laughing like a grown man, jumped on my back, and started biting my neck. It totally freaked me out so bad, I still remember it. 2 weeks later, we got the call. I used to get pissed when I'd see someone had written about this to further their own blogging, but I've calmed down about it, especially after reading details I never knew before and remembering the last time I saw him around 84 or 85. He proceeded to creep me out, talking about occult shit and weird lines like, what would you say if I saw a cat with only 2 front legs run across the yard right now? Bullshit. I can't prove it, but I believe he was in on it.
Wow.
Then, another anonymous, could be the same person, January 5th, 2020, 9:03 p.m. Lawrence Cadence never left the area. He still resides in Elwood City. And he never had a, quote, second son. He had another daughter. Now, this person gets a little mean, but someone puts them in their place, so it's fine.
Okay.
So remember, I'm quoting what they said.
Okay.
I do not think this way.
This is a direct quote.
This is a direct quote. He said, I don't know if it's a he, I'm just assuming.
They said,
who is as twisted as her father. She is living her life as a man. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess. This family came across as church-going Christians, when behind the scenes he was molesting his second wife's children. Robert wants nothing to do with him. That's the baby.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. Is Louis Caden's health is not very good right now, so hopefully soon he will be joining Atkinson and Coastal in hell where they belong, so finally Kathy and Don can have justice and R.I.P.
Wow.
So then Unknown commented September 30th, 2020. So a long time later.
Yeah.
These are mighty big words coming from someone who posted as anonymous, which I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Yes. That twisted, quote, daughter you speak about, yes, is living as a man and you are transphobic. I am not Christian. And then when I read this, I had to like go back and be like, oh, fuck.
Like, is this the person?
This is the person.
Dang.
I was like, holy shit.
Okay, keep reading the comment.
I am not Christian, but I have no affiliation with any religion. But I know right from wrong. I know exactly what I went through. You do not. Because even if you were there, you weren't me. Yes, he was molesting me. I have problems because of it. But I know how to be a good, compassionate human being who doesn't compare someone to their abuser. If my brother doesn't want anything to do with me or the rest of my family, he has a funny way of showing it. Because he could just tell me to my face and I would never speak to him again if that's what he wishes. I wish my father would rot too, so don't you ever damn compare me to my abuser again. That is the most fucked up thing you could do to someone. By the way, someone living as the opposite gender is none of yours or anyone else's damn business, and if you're so invested in what's in someone else's pants, you're the one who's a pervert. Drops mic!
Wow.
I was like, holy...
I really do hope that is that person.
Right? Because it keeps going. So that the Wolfine guy, who's, I guess, is Louis' niece.
Okay.
Okay. He comments,
Wait, Louis' niece?
Yeah. Or nephew.
Well, if you're saying he, then it would be nephew.
I just assumed he just because of the name Wolfine.
Yeah.
But they don't identify whether they're male, female.
Oh, so one
it
of
just
the
says my
nieces
uncle.
or nephews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nieces, nephews. Louis was their uncle.
Okay,
Okay. Sorry. I'll try to be better with my pronouns. They say, I feel for you truly as a member of the family who had a father just as shitty as yours. So then, and that was on December 21st, 2020. So these
Well, then wouldn't they be related somehow?
What?
Wouldn't they be related
Yes.
somehow? Yeah.
Yeah. So this unknown person commented September 30th, 2020.
Yeah.
Who is saying that they are
the other child.
Yes. So I believe the daughter that he had with the second wife is a transgender man.
Okay.
Doesn't say who Unknown is.
Mm-hmm. But that's what we are led to assume.
But that's what we are led to assume based on
The comment.
The comment.
Yes.
And then, so that was in September, and then Wolfine commented in December of that year.
Okay.
But going back, so first anonymous was January 2020, January 5th, 2020. Then there was another anonymous on January 16th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
This one isn't as, woo. I just read a book called Newcastle Cadence Murders, which that's 95% of the websites were trying to get me to that book.
Yeah.
I knew Jim Zingaro, Daleen Pounds, Bernie Lowe, Wesley Bowers, Speed Ritter, Aileen Callahan, Andrea Montgomery, Carol Montgomery, Bobby Hall, Chris Fabian, actually know both, Dick Smith, Ray Thompson, and with the dent in his head, Dennis Vogan, and maybe some more names mentioned in the book. Some have passed on, some are alive and kicking. It's a small town. And then someone commented in February asking if Raymond Turner was one of them. I didn't read the book, so I don't know about why all these names are mentioned.
Right.
So, another anonymous comments on February 8th, 2020. I know for a fact the husband did, in fact, shoot Kathy in the bathroom before the slaying of her and her daughter. I think someone should get justice for Kathy and little Dawn. Lawrence is still alive and living in Elwood City, PA. He got away with murder and got to live his life while messing up the lives of his 3 stepchildren, his son Dean, and his twisted youngest tranny daughter. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
My God.
I know. Now living as a man. If none searches for the truth, at least proves he's guilty of murder. At least Kathy and Don will rest when Lawrence finally dies, and God judgment will be sending him to hell with Coastal, Dudois, and Atkinson, where all 4 participants belong. Rip Kathy and Don Cadence. So, unknown from before, same date, commented on this one and said, first of all, I agree with you wholeheartedly that he did it. Secondly, I will be going back to school for forensic psychology in hopes to prove it. Third, I am not a tranny. I am a transgender man. There is a difference. I know it's hard to understand, but one's a slur from people who have too small of minds to understand that words hurt people who they don't know, who are innocent and did nothing wrong to them. Also, I was a victim of abuse from him myself, so I do believe he should account for his crimes. I'm like, yes. Then someone by the name of Robert Cadence doesn't comment, makes his own post on October 10th, 2020, and says, not one of you know me. Keep my name out of your mouths. You don't know me or my opinions or how I feel about anything. I know this because not one of you has ever asked. So when it comes to me, shut the fuck up. Or he said STFU. And Wolfine comments in December, I don't have to ask. As the son of Uncle Louie's shit-heel brother Leo, I have a pretty good idea. Screw these bottom-feeding ambulance chasers. They have no idea what it was like surviving that family.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to believe that the people who, alluded to who they were, I want to believe that is actually who they are, but you can just never tell on the internet.
Well, and even if it's not actually them,
I do like
whoever this unknown person is, their comments back, putting these people in their place is 100% spot on.
Absolutely.
So whoever you are unknown, if you are this person claiming to be, I'm sorry for what you went through.
Yeah.
But you are very good with your words.
Oh, yeah.
Very elegant of putting people in their place.
Elegant?
Yeah.
Eloquent?
What's the difference?
Elegant is like, oh, I am drinking my champagne. Eloquent is very well spoken.
Oh. I just figured elegant because it's pretty and graceful and...
I mean, I could be wrong. Both sound great.
Anyway, you're really good with your words. So, yeah.
Wow. You're probably here oh my God, all this tea?
Well, remember how I said I was going to be here at 3?
Yes.
Well, when
She got here at, what, 4?
3:45.
Oh, sorry.
Because I started reading one of the comments, and then, I kept going, and I was like, wow. And then I kept going, and I was like, holy shit!
I'm glad you included it.
So that's why I paused for a little bit to read the rest of the comments, and then I went back to filling in everything else. So, moral of the story is Lawrence definitely killed his wife and child. Maybe not his child.
In our honest opinion. Based on the facts that we have read from the case, this is how we have assumed
we have
the
deduced
outcome. Yes.
That it would make sense and be a logical conclusion to say that Lawrence killed his wife and told someone to kill his child.
But we have absolutely no proof that that's what happened.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
I deduce the same as you, Mackenzie.
Mm-hmm. I think from what it sounds like, he sounds like he's a little sick, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I don't think he's going to come after me for saying that he's a murderer. From what it seems like, his family agrees.
Yeah.
So.
His assumed family.
His assumed family.
Dang.
Yeah. What you talking about, Willis?
All right, I'm just going to jump on into the case.
All right.
Sometimes it's fun not to give a title.
Ooh.
So, it was August 28th, 2003, and Brian Douglas Wells' day began like any other. Wells was born on November 15th, 1956 in Warren, Pennsylvania. When he was only 17 years old, he dropped out of Erie's East High School and went on to work as a mechanic. He bumped around for a little bit until he settled in Erie, Pennsylvania, and took up a job as a pizza delivery driver. So, he started his day like he always did. He got into his Suzuki Geo Metro hatchback and just before 11 a.m. pulled into the Kearsarge Plaza and entered the place he had been employed at for the last 10 years, Mamma Mia Pizzeria. Brian went out for his normal lunch rush duties. He arrived back at the store just in time to take one more pizza out to finish up the lunch rush. A call had come in from a payphone near a gas station, and it would be a very simple delivery, just 2 large pepperoni and sausage pizzas, and they were to be delivered to 8631 Peach Street. This particular address was only a few miles from the pizzeria. And like I mentioned, Brian had been doing this job for about 10 years at this point, so he was very familiar with the many different neighborhoods and streets, and certainly the address that had come up on all of his deliveries. Mm-hmm. But Brian was not familiar with this particular address. He knew Peach Street was home to a few car dealerships and a family-owned landscaping service, so he was pretty sure one of these businesses was right where this pizza was going to be going. He got into his car and headed over to 8631 Peach Street with the 2 pizzas. Upon arriving at Peach Street, Brian noticed that the address was down a dirt road near the BMW showroom. So picture like an unpaved dirt road, narrow road with trees on the side. Mm-hmm. So he turned down this unpaved dirt road, and when he got to the end, he finds nothing. All that was standing at the end of this road was a radio tower. Completely confused, Brian gets out of his car, 2 pizzas in hand, and begins to look around, hoping to find whoever had placed the order. As Brian is waiting and looking around, suddenly a group of masked individuals start to come out of the surrounding woods. They surround Brian and hold him at gunpoint while one of the masked people starts to dig through their bag. With a gun still pointed at him, Brian watched on as the person digging through the bag finds what they were looking for. What was pulled out resembled a, quote, slave collar and was described as 3 rings of stainless steel with some kind of wire device attached. It is essentially a big handcuff that goes around the neck. It has 4 keyholes under the chin. There's also a rectangular thing attached to the collar that contains 2 pipe bombs and 2 kitchen timers. Another timer, this one electric, hangs down his chest. There were also several decoys on the collar, such as wires that were connected to nothing, a toy cell phone, and stickers that had different warnings on them. NPR gave a great description of the collar. They said it was made up of, quote, a triple-banded metal collar with 4 keyholes and a 3-digit combination lock and an iron box containing 2 6-inch pipe bombs loaded with double base smokeless powder. The collar bomb locked around Wells' neck like a giant handcuff. So before he could react, the masked man attached the collar around Brian's neck, hands him a homemade shotgun that resembles an odd-shaped cane, and 9 pages of a handwritten note. Then the assailants flee the area, leaving Brian alone once again. This is when he started to read over this handwritten note he had been given. It started off addressed to, quote, bomb hostage. That is when it finally clicked for Brian that he had a remote-activated bomb around his neck. The note went on to give Brian very specific time-sensitive tasks that he was to complete in order to collect keys. All of the keys would be used to delay the time of the bomb around his neck until he found the final key. That one would be the one that would actually remove the device from his neck. So like a scavenger hunt. And I didn't note this, but he was apparently a really good scavenger huntist. He was like known in papers for like being really great at scavenger hunts and was like getting awards for it. So very interesting that he has like the scavenger hunt he has to do. So the note detailed that while he couldn't see them, Brian was under constant surveillance, and that if he tried to contact the authorities in any manner or tried to remove the bomb on his own without getting through all of the tasks, those who had attached the bomb would just detonate it, killing him in the process. What?
What?
The note ended with the words, quote, act now, think later, or you will die. So I can only imagine these are, like, this is one of those moments when the world kind of slows down and everything just, like, doesn't seem real. Like, when that you just have that, like, moment. So Brian decided that he had to act now. So the first instruction that the note gave him was to calmly and quietly enter the PNC Bank that was located on Peach Street.
I'm part of PNC.
Oh, I am not, but with my old card, I was able to take money out of that ATM without a fee. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He was then to hand the bank teller a pre-written note. The note was demanding $250,000, all in cash. He was instructed that he was to use the homemade shotgun he had been given to intimidate and threaten anyone who refused to cooperate with his demands. And because he had no other choice, at 2:30 that afternoon, Brian entered the bank.
Did his collar look like a bomb?
There are pictures. He is wearing a shirt on top of it.
Okay.
So he has this like weird thing sticking out of his neck. And the cane, like, this will be one of the pictures I send you to post.
Mm-hmm.
The cane looks like a gun if you know that it's a gun.
Yeah.
But if you don't know it's a gun, you're just going to kind of think this is a really weird cane.
Okay.
So you could just tell there's something up with this dude.
Yeah.
So he waited in line for his turn up at the counter. When he got to the counter, he grabbed a lollipop and started sucking on it. When it was his turn, he walked up and handed the teller a note. It said, quote, gather employees with access code to Vault and work fast to fill bag with $250,000. You only have 15 minutes. Not only did the note demand the money, but it also said that if the exact amount of money was not provided, the collar around Brian's neck would detonate. Unfortunately, the bank teller wasn't able to open the bank's vault with such short notice for such a large amount of money, and all she was able to provide was a bag of cash with $8,702 inside.
Oh, God.
Did you know that one of their, code words for robbery is saying Audrey?
No, I didn't.
So if there's a robbery, you go like, oh, Audrey, to call your friend, but it means that there's a robbery. Yeah.
Huh.
So maybe if your name's Audrey, you just can't work at a bank.
No.
So Brian grabbed the money, waiting for the collar to detonate, but nothing happened. He casually walked out of the bank and back to his car to complete the following tasks on the list. A witness who saw this whole situation happen said that Wells left the bank in a very confident manner, swinging his gun and bag of money like Charlie Chaplin. So very calm, very collected. But as Brian was leaving the bank, another witness caught sight of him. A man moving from a bank with, quote, a bomb or something wrapped around his neck. This man made the first call to the authorities. Police were dispatched immediately after receiving this. The next instructions for Wells were to exit the bank with the money and go to a certain McDonald's. Get out of the car and go up to the sign that says drive-thru open 24 hours located in the flower bed. Under a rock near that sign, taped to the bottom, will be your next instructions. So he got to McDonald's and found the note under the rock. This one directed him to go up Peach Street a bit to a wooded area. That's where his next clue would be. But this is when the police who had been dispatched only 15 minutes earlier found Brian standing near his car, and he was arrested immediately. This is when he began explaining to police what was going on. He told them that 3 black men had placed a bomb around his neck, gave him the shotgun, and told him that, unless he committed the robbery along with many other tasks, they would kill him. Their shock must have been evident, but after much more questioning, they were able to confirm that Brian was unable to detonate this bomb on his own. But instead of trying to disarm it on their own, at 3:04 p.m., the bomb squad was called and the entire surrounding area was evacuated while the squad was on their way. So all the civilians were cleared out, if this is a bomb. But this freaked Brian out. He knew he was being monitored, he knew his time was running out, and there was nothing he could do. He begs to the cops, saying, quote, why is it no one's trying to come get this thing off me? I don't have a lot of time. It's going to go off. I'm not lying. Did you call my boss? Which I'm like, the boss should be the least of your concerns at this point. Well, the attackers must not have been lying about the constant surveillance, because with the bomb squad only 3 minutes away, at 3:18 p.m., the bomb around Brian's neck starts to beep rapidly right before it detonates.
Oh my God.
I know. The reason it took the bomb squad so long to arrive is because of all of the traffic that the congestion of, the evacuation caused.
Oh, shit.
So they had trouble getting through all of the traffic to get to him in time.
Oh my God.
This explosion blasted a large hole into Brian's chest. Disoriented and bleeding to death, he did not make it.
He was alive for a second?
Kind of just...
I thought his head would have blown.
Nope, just a hole in his chest.
Holy shit.
Yep. Because there was that little thing that was kind of hanging down, so I feel like
yeah.
that's where a majority of the blast was. So this whole event had caused a media circus, and there were film crews, news crews, and onlooking spectators. One of these news crews caught the entire explosion on camera, but thankfully the actual
Wasn't
events...
this a movie?
Could have been. I think there were, movies and shows. This was a big thing.
Yeah.
So thankfully, the actual events were never televised because there had been a technical error on the news people's part when they were trying to get it on the news, but it's still out there. So if someone is so inclined to find it, I did not search for it. I did not want that on my search history.
Nope.
But if someone wants to find it, it's out there because someone had gotten it, I guess, from the news crew or from someone who had filmed it and sent it to this guy who actually had a radio station in DC, a radio show in DC. And I was like, oh, sir. And then he posted it on his website, and that's when everyone grabbed it before he was able to delete it.
Ooh.
So that's how it's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So while looking into the whole situation, police did find the note that had been given to Brian, all of the scavenger hunt instructions, and they, on their own, tried to find all of the keys and even tried to do it in the time Brian had been allotted. They were unsuccessful and realized that Brian was set up to fail from the beginning. There was no way he could have been able to complete all of the tasks in the amount of time given.
Oh my God.
They also weren't even able to find all of the clues, so they were following them all, and at one point, they reached one of the clue, destinations and nothing was there. No clue, no nothing. So they figured either the plotters didn't leave anything on purpose so that Brian wouldn't find anything, or they had stopped short before finishing because everything had started happening with him getting caught.
True.
So the FBI was obviously involved and conducted their own investigation into the whole incident. This is when they uncovered a plot that has since been described as, quote, one of the most complicated and bizarre crimes in the annals of the FBI.
Anus.
The FBI teamed up with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which we talked about recently.
ATF.
And the Pennsylvania State Police, PSP, to look into the crime and to help with their investigations. During this time, the FBI came up with a profile for the collar bomber. They were profiled as being a hoarder, comfortable with shop machines and power tools. The bomber had to have access to work with these tools alone and also took pride in their creations.
How did they get to hoarder?
I don't know.
Huh.
They had a violent past and superiority complex. Well, maybe the hoarder part because they had just like that weird telephone and all these weird timers and just random stuff.
Yeah.
So this profile describes two people to a T. Kenneth Barnes and Marjorie Dial Armstrong. So Armstrong had a violent and complex past and was a hoarder, and Barnes had shop skills. So a little about these new characters before we get further into it. Kenneth Barnes was...
Wow. Our stories are very parallel.
I know. When you were saying all this stuff, I was like, wow.
We got some twists and turns in this one.
A lot of characters we got to introduce. So Kenneth Barnes was born in 1954, so at the point of this whole incident, he was around 49 years old. Kenneth was a retired television repairman, Marjorie Dial Armstrong's fishing buddy, and just your casual neighborhood crack dealer. Marjorie Dial Armstrong was born in 1949, so would have been about 54 at this point. She suffered from different mental illnesses growing up, including bipolar disorder, which we talked about last week, paranoia, and narcissism. But while in high school, Armstrong had been a very good student and had even earned her master's degree from Gannon College in Pennsylvania. But she got tangled up in the law in 1984 when she shot her boyfriend, Robert Thomas, 6 times as he was laying on the couch.
Oh my God.
But she was acquitted on claims of self-defense. Apparently, he was very abusive. Another side note, since 1984, she has had several other husbands and partners, all of whom have died under mysterious circumstances. Her first husband hung himself, and the second died after hitting his head on a coffee table. But I digress. So these characters, along with a third character, William Rothstein, were all hanging out one day. William was born in 1944, so would have been about 59 at this point. He was a handyman and a part-time shop teacher. He was also part of a group called the, quote, Fractured Intellectuals, who are, this is their little thing, intelligent people who are not well-adjusted. So.
Okay, obviously not a good guy, but like that's kind of a clever description of a group of people.
Right. Right. So he and Armstrong had dated for a bit in the late 60s into the early 70s. He also wasn't a perfect person. In 1977, he was implicated in a murder when his handgun was used as the murder weapon.
I wonder if it was my 1977 thing.
He had loaned his friend the gun and later even tried to destroy it. But in exchange for his testimony, he was granted immunity from prosecution. So the three, Rothstein, Dial Armstrong, and Barnes, were talking about ways to get money. Just your casual hangout. Armstrong had recently been cut off financially by her father, Harold Dial. Harold Dial. That sounded weird coming out of my mouth.
Dial.
He said that his daughter's criminal behavior and inability to hold down a steady job were huge issues, so he cut her off.
Fair.
Well, this infuriated Armstrong, and her hatred towards her father grew. But her father was well off. He had an estate that was valued to be almost $2 million.
Damn!
Yeah. Because he had done this awful thing by cutting her off, Armstrong decided that if her father was dead, she would inherit his estate and the $2 million.
Oh, no.
She was also worried that he was blowing through all of his money and that there would be nothing left for her when it was her time to inherit it.
Oh, no.
So he can't have fun. He has to save all of the money to give to her.
Well, she is a diagnosed narcissist, so...
So she came up with the plan to kill her father. But Armstrong wasn't going to do the killing on her own. No. She was going to hire a contract killer to take out her father. Armstrong turned to Barnes and told him that he should kill her father for her instead. Barnes agreed, but said that he would be willing to go through with it for $250,000.
Oh my God.
Which is, just side note, about $368,000 today. So the pair came up with a plan that involved a bank robbery, where they could get $250,000 or $250,000.
That's so stupid. You are not intelligent.
No.
Like, to do all that...
To get money, to pay, to... Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
There are so many ways that you could get that accomplished without having to do all of the things that you did.
I know. So this next part gets a little confusing and a little choppy. So there were a lot of different articles. What? Choppy. How does that work?
Because it's,
That would be explosive.
Yeah, but I mean, you're in pieces, so.
Valid. So it was hard to find, like, a perfect timeline or just, like, kind of all the facts in order. So I did my best to put it all how I could. So if it feels a little all over the place, it's because it is. So here we go.
If it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck.
Right. So about a month after the whole ordeal, Rothstein, who I talked about earlier, who was in on the whole plot, called 911. He gave them his address and told the operator that in his garage there's a frozen body. It's in the freezer. He claimed he had been storing it as a favor for a friend. That man was James Roden. When he
The man in the freezer?
Uh-huh. When he hung up the phone, Rothstein proceeded to write a suicide note that indicated that what he was about to do had nothing to do with what happened to Wells. So now who was Roden? Yet another person to add it to this tangled web. Roden had actually been romantically involved in living with Armstrong for the past 10 years. They had gotten into a dispute over money, and in that moment, Armstrong shot and killed Roden with a 12-gauge shotgun.
Oh my God.
This occurred just a few days before the robbery on August 13th. She then paid Rothstein $2,000 to help her hide the body and clean the crime scene. He agreed, as the two, Rothstein and Armstrong.
That would be, more than $2,000.
Yep. Well, they had been engaged twice, so he had this connection to her.
Oh my God, she has been with all of these men.
I know. She's not stable.
No.
Yeah. So Rothstein was arrested.
Almost like a bomb.
Yeah. So Rothstein was arrested, and this is when he informed the police about Armstrong's involvement in Roden's murder. It is also mentioned that Rothstein's brother-in-law may have turned him in at some point when he revealed, like, details of the crime to his brother-in-law. But so this Rothstein telling the police about Armstrong's involvement led to her arrest, and in January 2005, she pled guilty to third-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. She was found to be mentally ill and was only sentenced to between 7 to 25 years in prison for the murder.
What?
Yeah. Well, because she was considered mentally ill.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that you get a free pass.
I know.
Like, you may... Okay, I'll give it. Maybe you didn't know it was... Whatever. No.
Yeah.
You should still not be permitted to be in society because clearly you're a danger.
Right. Like, even going
even
somewhere
if it's
where you
not
can
your
get help.
fault.
Yeah.
You're still a danger.
The rumor is that it is believed she had killed Roden because he was aware of her murder plot, and she wanted a way to prevent him from informing authorities. Which also reminds me of last week's case, where instead of letting the girl go and getting accused of attempted murder, she killed her so that she couldn't go tell the authorities. So Armstrong is now in custody at the Muncie Correctional Institution. This is a closed-security prison located in Clinton Township, Lycoming County. While in custody, she told a state trooper that she had information about the Wells case. This prompted her to have a meeting with some FBI agents. She's just really not smart. So she told the agents that, yeah, she would tell them what she knew if they would transfer her from Muncie Correctional Institution to a minimum security prison located in Cambridge Springs. Before going into everything, she told them that she had nothing to do with the plot. She was completely innocent. But she did supply the kitchen timers. Oh yeah, and she was only a mile away from the bank when it was robbed, but she wasn't involved. She then agreed to drive around Erie with the FBI agents to show where she had been the day of the robbery.
Oh, Jesus.
I guess to show that she wasn't linked. Well, all of the locations she had been to linked her to several different locations connected to the crime.
Oh, no.
So this is what the investigation revealed and what investigators and authorities believe happened. So Armstrong, in fact, did want to kill her father and was fully prepared to pay Kenneth Barnes the $250,000 he wanted in order to go through with murder. They were completely set on doing this. Those involved in this bank robbery plot were Marjorie Dial Armstrong, Kenneth Barnes, William Rothstein, a man named Floyd Arthur Stockton.
Who the hell is that guy?
He's the roommate of Rothstein.
Oh, Jesus.
He was also apparently like an accused sex offender, like convicted sex offender. And the last and fifth person involved in the bank robbery plan was Brian Wells himself.
Shut the front door.
Wells wasn't randomly called to 8631 Peach Street in the afternoon of August 28th, 2003. No, he was going there to meet up with his accomplices and set the whole bank robbery plan into motion. He knew that this bomb was going to be placed around his neck, and if he got caught, he was to tell the authorities that 3 black men had forced the bomb on him and were using it to hold him hostage. But the bomb they agreed on was going to look completely real, but ultimately be fake. Well, upon arriving at the end of this dirt road, things took a turn when Wells learned that the bomb they were using was actually real. As Barnes and Rothstein tried to place the collar on Wells, he fought them off and tried to flee. But someone fired a gun into the air, causing Wells to freeze. That gunshot is corroborated by local neighbors. It's assumed that at this point, the collar was secured around Wells' neck, and he was then given the handmade shotgun. This is when he left, and the rest happened as I explained earlier. So it is believed that, knowing the bomb was real and knowing that Wells had been arrested and that everyone, that he knew everyone who he was working with, Armstrong, along with the others, killed Wells using the bomb, probably in a way to reduce witnesses so that he wouldn't be able to link them back to the whole thing. So with all of this information and all of the evidence, the authorities were able to easily arrest and detain Armstrong and Barnes for the bank robbery and bomb and all that stuff. And so, again, I said, I know this is all over the place. I'm sorry for that. All the articles I found had no concrete information, so this was all me piecing it together.
You did a very good job.
Thank you. So, on July 10th, 2007, charges were filed against Armstrong and Barnes by a federal grand jury. Armstrong was still imprisoned at that time for the death of Roden, the 7 to 20 years, and was now charged with 3 additional crimes: bank robbery, conspiracy to commit bank robbery, and felony use of a firearm in connection with a crime. So, Barnes was also imprisoned when his crimes were filed. He was already in jail for unrelated drug crimes.
Oh, my
He
Lord.
was charged, but they didn't give a disclosure of the specific crimes at this time. Then, just the next day, on July 11th, 2007, both the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office named Brian Douglas Wells as an additional conspirator due to his participation in the robbery. Floyd Stockton, the roommate of William Rothstein, was given immunity for his deal to testify against Barnes and Armstrong, but when it came down to it, he wasn't called to testify due to illness. And finally, Rothstein was called as an additional conspirator as well, but he had died back in 2004, so he was never charged. It's believed that he is the one who invented and constructed the bomb, got the timers for the bomb, and called in the fake pizza order that got Wells to come out to that dirt road. So overall, in 2007, District Attorney Mary Beth Buchanan stated that she believed that Brian Wells was in on the whole plot along with Rothstein and Barnes, but that the mastermind behind the whole thing was Armstrong. She also believed that Armstrong and Barnes were going to take the money right from Wells right when he left the bank, but they saw the cops looking around, so they left him for dead. Just kind of like, you know. Then, on July 28, 2008, it was ruled by U.S. District Court judge that Armstrong was actually unfit to stand trial due to, quote, a number of mental disorders. It was decided that she would receive treatment in a mental hospital, then the ruling would be reviewed again. So she was transferred to a mental health facility in Texas. Kenneth Barnes pled guilty to conspiring to rob a bank, aiding and abetting, and using a destructive device during a crime of violence on September 3, 2008, and was sentenced to 45 years in prison on December 3, 2008. And this was well beyond the 30-year minimum, so the crimes that he committed held a 30-year minimum, but he got 45 years, so. During his sentencing, the U.S. District Judge, Sean McLaughlin, said that Barnes wasn't just a minor player in this plot, but was rather, quote, ultimately involved. He suggested bomb parts, provided different magazine articles about how to make a bomb, and was present when the bomb was put on Brian Wells. So very important part of this whole thing.
Oh, my Lord.
Barnes even apologized to Wells' family before the sentence was given, saying, quote, what happened to him was something that wasn't supposed to happen. So what was supposed to happen if you put a legitimate live bomb on him?
They were supposed to get away with it.
Yes.
That's what their intention was, I assume.
Barnes tried to maintain his innocence the whole time, but when prosecutors offered to drop armed bank robbery charge, he ended up pleading guilty. That armed bank robbery charge held a potential life sentence, so by pleading guilty, he got the lesser of the charges. A new hearing was finally scheduled for Armstrong on March 11th to determine if she was competent to stand trial, and on September 9th, 2009, she was deemed competent to stand trial.
God bless.
Her trial took place in October 2010, and she actually took the stand to testify on her own behalf.
Oh, no.
Really don't have any information on that, but on November 1st, 2010, she was convicted of armed bank robbery, conspiracy to commit armed bank robbery, and of using a destructive device in a crime. And on February 21st, 2011, she was sentenced to life plus 30 years.
Good.
Because I think a life sentence is a certain amount of years. I think it's 200-something years. So
God forbid you last that long.
And I think they do it too, so it's once I die, I'm free. It's no, once you die, technically you're still not free. So she tried to appeal her conviction a few times, but all of them were denied or declined, and then she ran out of them. She died in jail on April 4th, 2017 due to, quote, natural causes. Then, out of the blue, in 2018, a woman named Jessica Hoopsick came forward to admit to her involvement in the plot as well.
Why would you do that? No one even knew who the hell you were.
I know.
You moron.
Hoopsick claimed that she had been approached by one of the main conspirators and asked to find a, quote, gopher, someone who could be scared into robbing a bank. She later identified that conspirator as Barnes. Hoopsick said that she was the one to recommend Wells, whom she described as a pushover. She says she regrets setting up Wells, though. So I guess it was the guilt of it made her confess.
Well, I mean...
She had put his name forward in exchange for drugs and money.
Oh, yeah, okay, I would feel bad, too.
She stated that Wells had no knowledge of the robbery until he was forced into it. But ATF agent Jason Wick mentioned that Hoopsick had been questioned back in 2003 and had been uncooperative, but he always had this feeling that she knew more than she was letting on.
Sure.
He also expressed concerns that Hoopsick may not be a credible witness, but keep that name in mind.
Oh, there's more?
There's more.
Oh my goodness.
So, a side note. So what started this whole thing was that Armstrong wanted to get her father's estate, which
Sure.
was believed to be worth about $2 million.
Sure.
Her father's estate had been valued slightly under that at $1.8 million, but after he had given different gifts to friends, it ended up dropping in value to $120,000 by the time he passed away in 2014.
Holy shit.
So he was never killed, so he died at the age of 95, but he, like, used his money, lived his money, had a great time.
Spent that shit.
His last will and testament left only $2,000 to Armstrong, but his estate had an obligation to pay any outstanding medical bills before inheritances would be paid out. So at the end of all of it, Armstrong would have been left with nothing.
Fuck yeah.
So all the medical bills would have been $2,000 and she got and received nothing.
Good.
But I don't think she would have gotten it anyways being in jail. But had she
Right.
not committed the crime, she would have got nothing.
Right.
So there is some debate about Wells' involvement, though. His family and friends are all very adamant about the fact that Wells had no idea what was going to happen when he went to deliver the pizza that day. They all believe that Wells had been held at gunpoint and was forced to wear the bomb and carry out the robbery. His landlord, Linda Payne, said he was a perfect tenant. He liked to help people, was very shy, and just lived a very normal life. I read somewhere else that he had worked at this pizza place for 10 years, never called off work. The only day he came in late was when one of his cats died.
No.
So he just seemed like not the kind of guy who could do something like this.
Yeah.
His sister, Jean Hyde, said in court that Wells was, quote, forced to play the role of the bomb hostage in an evil, sadistic, barbaric plot Ken Barnes and others premeditated, planned, and executed that sunny day. She said that she and her family are not only mad at the authorities for saying that Wells was involved, but also the prosecutors for not filing a murder charge for his death, which I didn't think about until I read that. And I was like, that's actually a really good point. But there are a few other things that have come out that may point to the fact that Wells was aware of what he was doing and a mostly willing participant. Immediately after his death, his house was searched by investigators. A list of names was found, a list of people who Wells knew. 2 sex workers were listed who were unknown to members of Wells' family. One of the sex workers he connected with often was a woman named Jessica Hoopsick,
Ooh.
who also just happened to know Kenneth Barnes.
Bro.
Mm-hmm. So according to law enforcement reports, Wells was, in fact, aware of the whole complex robbery plot from the beginning. It was confirmed by 2 witnesses that about a month before this whole thing occurred, Wells had been talking about the plan. It is true that he wasn't aware that a real bomb was going to be used, but he was aware of everything else. Wells had also been seen leaving Rothstein's house just a day before the whole incident. It is believed by investigators that this had been a little rehearsal or practice run for the real thing. And the day of the actual robbery, Wells was reported as being super calm and casual while robbing the bank.
Oh.
For some, it is still considered an unsolved mystery as to if Wells was willingly involved or not. But what we do know, people will do anything for a little bit of money. And if you want more information on this case, Netflix has a great documentary called Evil Genius, The True Story of America's Most Diabolical Bank Heist that goes even more into this case. And one of my coworkers is watching it after I told them about this case, and they said it's really, really good.
Well, shit.
Yeah. So that's the case of Brian Wells.
Holy crap.
Right.
Some jaw-dropping, mic-dropping, mind-blowing, no pun intended, shit going down.
So you can see kind of why it was very hard to piece everything together.
That's crazy.
But yeah, because I had heard about this case forever ago, and I just remember the collar and the pizza thing, but I didn't remember any of the other stuff. So I'm reading it, I was like, oh my God. And
yeah. I didn't know about the rest of it. The background of the initial story sounded familiar.
Yes. Which is what I think because we like to cover cases that people don't really know.
Yeah.
But when I was searching for what to cover for the state, I was like, true crime in Pennsylvania.
I searched in the same thing.
Oh. And this was the first one that came up.
There were 2. This one, and then there was another one. But I went with this one because I read about the affair, and I was like, ooh. And then it's something with, like, satanic stuff. I said, that one.
But yeah, wild. And it's hard to know. Like, we're never going to know if he was involved or not because...
Same with the Lawrence guy.
Yeah.
Wild.
And then one person said that Barnes, Kenneth Barnes, got lucky. Like, he died before he was convicted, or one of them died before they were convicted. And the cop was like...
I have a guy that would die before he was convicted.
Oh my God, so many parallels. But yeah, the cop was like, it's unfair. Like, he took all of the secrets to the grave, and now we're never going to have all the answers.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Wild stuff in Pennsylvania.
Holy crap, Pennsylvania, you got a lot of shit going down.
They really do.
Got a lot of firsts and capitals and oldists and some twisted cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
And I think it's funny, both of us finished our notes today.
I also started mine today. Actually, I found my topic yesterday.
Okay, see, ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Ahead of the game. Well, we haven't said any of our social medias recently, so do you want to tell people where they can find us?
I can surely try. You can find us on Twitter at A Scary State Pod, Instagram and Facebook, A Scary State Podcast. We have a website.
The website is a scarystatepodcast.squarespace.com.
There you go.
Go visit. It's actually really cool.
It will be updated shortly with our new cases.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some things have been neglected. Not on purpose. You've been busy.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's why I said they've been neglected, because you've had other important things to do.
Yeah. But I have some time off, so
wonderful.
Can I get cracking?
Rate us and review us on all things, please. Go like us on Spotify and iTunes.
Everybody you know.
Yeah. If you tell one person, and then they tell one person, and then they tell two people, and then everyone tells two people, then...
The domino affects people.
Right. That's all we want.
That's all we want.
So I guess that's it. So stay scary.
Stay safe.